The desert world burned under a red sky, its horizon glowing like molten metal. Heat waves danced above the black stones, and every breath felt like fire inside the lungs. A single human figure walked across the wasteland, his boots sinking into the cracked ground. His name was Daniel Cross, a lone explorer who had traveled across galaxies to reach this forbidden planet. Legends had warned him. Stories spoke of a place where fire lived as flesh, where no human could stand without turning to ash. Yet Daniel's ship had landed. His will stronger than fear, and his eyes searched the horizon for the secret hidden here. He carried no weapon in his hands, only a recorder that captured his voice. "Day 1, he said softly. "The planet burns, but I am alive." The wind blew. Carrying sparks like angry insects, Daniel pulled his cloak tight, his skin already blistering under the heat. But then, in the distance, he saw movement. A figure stood among the flames, tall, graceful, glowing like a star fallen to earth. Daniel froze, his heart racing. His mind told him it was impossible, but his eyes whispered truth. It was not a beast, not a monster of fire, but a woman. Her skin shimmered with light, her hair moved like flowing fire, her eyes burned golden. Staring at him without fear, she did not walk, she floated slightly above the scorched ground. Every spark bent toward her, like fire itself obeyed her presence. Daniel whispered to himself, "An alien," and his voice shook, but something inside him said more than alien. She was royalty, she was power, she was danger and beauty. The sight of her made his throat dry, yet he could not look away. The figure spoke, her voice carrying through the flames like a song of crackling wood. "Human," she said, not with hatred, but with curiosity. "Why do you walk the land of fire?" Daniel swallowed hard. His legs trembled, but he stood firm. "I came for truth," he answered. "For knowledge, for what your people hide." She tilted her head, her hair blazing brighter. Sparks burst around her, and the desert lit like a sea of fireflies. "No human has walked here and lived," she said. "The air burns lungs. The ground swallows feet. Your kind fears my world." Daniel's lips curved into a faint smile, though fear gripped his chest. "Maybe," he said, "but fear is not stronger than need." The Princess of Flames, though he did not yet know her name, studied him. Her gaze was sharp, yet beneath the fire there was something softer, something ancient and lonely. "You should leave," she warned. "This world will consume you, and my touch will destroy you." Daniel's heart pounded like thunder in his ears, yet he stepped closer, just one step. The fire rose higher around him, biting his skin. He clenched his teeth but did not fall. "Then let the world try," he said, his voice steady now. For a moment, silence held the desert. The flames bent in the wind, the air hissed, and her golden eyes widened just slightly. She had seen warriors burn. She had seen machines melt, but never had a human dared to challenge fire itself with nothing but will. "You are not like the others," she said, her voice softer now, "but that will not save you." Daniel felt sweat pouring down his face, but he forced a laugh. "Then at least let me know your name before the fire takes me." The figure's expression shifted. Her flames slowed, glowing instead of raging. "I am Seraphina," she said, "Princess of the Eternal Flame, daughter of the burning sky." The name rolled through the desert like a command, and the ground seemed to bow beneath it. Daniel whispered it under his breath. "Seraphina." The sound felt alive in his mouth, as if even her name carried heat. She drifted closer, the fire wrapping around her body like a gown of living light. Daniel's body screamed in pain, yet his spirit surged with awe. Every instinct told him to turn back, to run, but something stronger pulled him forward. "Why are you here, Daniel Cross?" she asked, her voice suddenly knowing his name. "Why risk your life for a world not yours?" Daniel's throat tightened, but he answered, "Because some truths are worth burning for." For the first time, the Princess of Flames did not speak. Her gaze locked on him, and in her silence, the desert itself seemed to wait. The air shimmered, the flames curled, and the world grew quiet. as if the planet itself knew something impossible had just begun. And so the encounter started. A meeting that should never have happened. A moment that would burn through history. For in the heart of fire, one human dared to stand, and one princess of flames chose to watch instead of destroy. The desert trembled, the flames whispered, and destiny drew its first breath. Asterisk, the flames bent around her like loyal servants, shaping themselves into walls of fire that guarded her every step. Daniel Cross stood frozen in awe, his body blistered from the heat, yet his eyes refused to look away. He had seen countless worlds, walked through ruins of alien empires, but nothing compared to the sight of her, Seraphina, the Princess of Flames. She hovered a few feet above the ground, her feet never touching the scorched earth. Her presence was more than beauty, it was power. The fire did not burn her, it crowned her, it licked her arms, swirled around her hair, and glowed across her skin like living jewels. Daniel's heart raced, not from fear alone but from something deeper. She was dangerous, untouchable, yet there was an unexplainable pull in her presence. The way her golden eyes searched him was not with hatred, not even anger, but with curiosity. As though she were staring at a puzzle never solved. "You should have died the moment you stepped on this land," Seraphina said, her voice echoing like crackling firewood. "No human should breathe this air, no heart should endure this heat. Yet you stand, why?" Daniel's throat was dry, his lips cracked, but he forced words to rise. "Because I wanted to see if the stories were true," he said. "Stories of the princess who lives within fire, untouchable, eternal, feared by all." For a heartbeat, Seraphina said nothing. Then her lips curved slightly, a flicker of something close to amusement. "Stories," she whispered. "Yes, your kind tells many." She drifted closer, the air burning brighter. Daniel felt his skin screaming. But he clenched his fists and stayed rooted. "Do you know what happens if you touch me?" she asked, her voice soft now. "Do you know what becomes of flesh when it meets fire that does not die?" Daniel swallowed hard, his body screamed at him to step back. But he took a slow breath and answered, "I know what fire does, but I also know what fear does." He looked directly into her blazing eyes. "Fear kills faster than flame." Her golden gaze narrowed. For centuries, warriors had come to challenge her. None had survived. They called her curse. They called her goddess, but in her eyes, they were all the same, weak, predictable, terrified. Yet this human was different. He shook, he burned, but he did not break. "You are reckless," she said, her flames swirling higher. "Reckless or foolish?" Daniel smiled faintly through the pain. "Maybe both," he admitted. "But maybe that is what makes humans different." For the first time, Seraphine's fire dimmed, only slightly, like a candle swaying in the wind. Her eyes softened, though her tone remained sharp. "Your kind is fragile," she said. "Bones that break, hearts that stop, yet here you are, standing in the fire that should have ended you." Daniel's breath shook, but his words were steady. "Maybe fragility makes us stronger," he said. "Because when we break, we rise again." Her silence stretched. The desert wind howled, sparks rained down around them, but she did not turn away. She studied him like one might study a flame that burned without fuel. "An impossible thing," finally she whispered, almost to herself. "A human who does not fear fire." Her gaze locked onto his face, and in her golden eyes, something shifted. It was not anger, not pity, but the faint spark of wonder. "You are not like the others," she said, "and because of that, your presence is dangerous, not just to you, but to me." Daniel tilted his head, surprised. "To you?" "Yes," Seraphina answered, her voice heavy. "Because fire consumes, and even I am not immune to what it touches when it dares to stand unburned." Daniel's chest tightened. His instincts screamed he was standing on the edge of something larger than himself, something history would remember. Yet he did not move. She drifted back slightly, her flames swirling like a storm preparing to strike. "Go back to your ship," she commanded. "Leave before the fire claims you. You have proven your courage. Do not waste it by dying here." But Daniel shook his head slowly, his voice calm. "I didn't come this far to walk away," the words lingered. Burning hotter than the flames around them, for the first time in centuries, the Princess of Flames did not know what would happen next. She had faced armies, she had shattered worlds, but never had she felt the weight of a single human's defiance. And so, in the silence of the burning desert, something began, not war, not death, but a story. A story written in fire, with two beings standing on opposite sides of destiny. Yet drawn by the same unspoken force, Seraphine's flames flickered. Daniel's heart pounded. The encounter had become more than survival, it had become connection. And both of them knew, though neither said it, that nothing would ever be the same again. The desert glowed like a furnace, and the fire winds howled around them. Daniel stood unshaken, though his body trembled under the weight of the heat. Before him, Seraphina, the Princess of Flames, hovered with her golden eyes fixed on him. Her presence burned, yet there was something inside her gaze that was not flame, it was doubt. She had told him to leave. She had warned him that her touch would end him. Yet Daniel's refusal lingered in the air like a spark that would not die. He had said, "I didn't come this far to walk away," and the words had struck her deeper than she wished to admit. For centuries, suitors had come, warriors from alien worlds, hunters seeking glory, kings seeking power. All of them wanted her for what she was, the living flame, the immortal jewel of her people, and all of them had fallen, turned to ash by her kiss, consumed by her fire. None had survived, none had endured. Now this fragile human stood before her, blistered, broken, yet unbent. His courage was foolish, yes. But there was more than foolishness in him. There was defiance. There was belief. "Do you know what you are asking?" Seraphina said, her voice low, the fire on her dimming into embers. "If you remain here, the fire will claim you. If you try to touch me, your body will burn away. This is no path for mortals." Daniel wiped the sweat from his brow, his lips cracked, his lungs dry. Yet his voice did not shake. "Then let the fire try," he said. "I want to know the truth." Not the fear. Her flames hissed in the silence. She could destroy him in an instant, yet something stayed her hand. Perhaps it was his eyes, steady despite pain. Perhaps it was the strange calm in his words. Perhaps it was the way he looked at her, not as a goddess, not as a monster, but as a being worth knowing. "You are unlike the others," she whispered. "You do not beg, you do not boast, you simply stand." Daniel gave a small, tired smile. "Maybe standing is all humans really have," he said, "but sometimes that is enough." The princess turned her face away. Her flames swirled angrily, as though trying to hide the conflict inside her. She had lived centuries untouched. Her kiss was death, her closeness was doom, and her people believed it must remain that way. To them, her fire was not love, it was weapon, it was throne, it was curse. But for the first time she wondered, what if the curse was not her kiss, but her loneliness? Daniel took a single step closer. His boots crunched the black ground. The heat seared through him like knives, but he did not stop. His voice was quiet but unyielding. "Seraphina," said, her name alive in his breath. "What if your fire does not have to destroy? What if it can change?" Her chest rose sharply, her flames trembled. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever dared. "And what if you are wrong?" She whispered, "What if you kiss me, and all that remains is ash scattered in the wind?" Daniel looked at her, his eyes tired but alive. "Then let my ashes be proof that I tried." The desert grew silent, the flames bent low, as if the planet itself leaned in to hear. Seraphina felt her heart, if flame could have a heart stir, in ways it had not for centuries. His words were madness, but they were also courage. His presence was weakness, but it was also strength. It was then she realized. He was giving her a choice. For centuries, she had been untouchable, but now she faced a decision no fire could erase. Would she push him away, protect him by denying him, or allow the unthinkable, allow him to touch what no mortal should? Forbidden's choice weighed heavy in her soul. If she let him near, if she allowed even a kiss, she risked more than his death. She risked herself. She risked her throne. She risked the destiny her people had written for her. But as Daniel stood, refusing to bow, refusing to break, a strange thought burned within her. Perhaps destiny itself was wrong. Her flames dimmed once more. Her golden eyes locked on his. "You are a fool," she said softly. "But perhaps a fool is what the universe needs." Daniel breathed out, steady, ready, waiting, and as the fire swirled around them, the Princess of Flames understood. The choice was no longer his alone. It was hers. The desert trembled as the fire whispered of change, and the night sky above them burned brighter than ever before. The Forbidden's choice had been made, not in words, but in the silence between two beings who should never have met. And with that silence, the path toward destiny opened. Asterisk. The desert night burned brighter than a sunless world should. The ground cracked beneath the weight of unseen heat. Sparks drifted like falling stars. Daniel stood unmoving, his body weak. His skin blistered, but his spirit unbroken. Before him hovered Seraphina, the Princess of Flames. Her golden eyes locked on him, as if searching for the last secret of his soul. Her fire swirled wildly, torn between warning and surrender. She had spent centuries untouched, centuries watching mortals fall to ash at her lips. Her kiss was death. It was law, and yet now, in this moment, she found herself wondering if it could be something more. "You do not understand what you ask," she said, her voice trembling like fire in a storm. "A kiss from me is not love, it is the end." Daniel's throat ached, his voice cracked, but his words came steady. "Then let it be the end. I would rather burn in truth than live in fear." The flames around her bent low, as if bowing to his resolve. Seraphine's chest rose sharply, her fire dimming into something softer. For the first time, the heat around her did not rage, it pulsed like a heartbeat. Slow, unsure, alive, she drifted closer, each inch making Daniel's body scream in pain. The air seared his lungs, his vision blurred, but his eyes never left hers. The desert stretched silent, holding its breath. "You are a fool," she whispered, her lips glowing brighter than molten gold. Daniel managed a faint smile. "Then, let me be your fool." And before reason could return, before fear could command her to retreat, the Princess of Flames closed the space between them. Her lips touched his, fire kissed flesh, and the world exploded. The sky ignited, 1,000 firestorms rising into the air. The ground shook as molten cracks split the desert. Waves of flame surged outward like oceans of light. Daniel felt the fire enter him, felt it tear through every bone, every vein, every thought. Pain unlike anything he had known roared inside him, yet beneath the pain there was something else, power. Instead of ash, he felt strength. Instead of death, he felt life. His body burned, yes, but it burned with renewal. His blood turned to fire. His skin glowed like embers. His heart thundered like a furnace waking from sleep. Seraphine's eyes widened, her lips pulled away only slightly. Her fire had never spared anyone. Yet Daniel still stood, shaking, blazing, alive. His body had not broken. It had changed. The impossible had happened. He had endured her kiss. "You survive," she whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. "No one has ever." Daniel's breath came ragged, smoke curling from his mouth, but his eyes burned with a strange light. "Maybe I was meant to," he said, his voice low but steady. Her flames flared violently. Not in anger, but in shock. She drew back half a step, staring at him as if he were a new star born before her eyes. The fire that should have consumed him now coursed within him, glowing faintly in his veins like rivers of molten gold. "Impossible," Seraphina whispered. "A mortal cannot hold the flame." Daniel looked down at his hands. Trembling, glowing faintly, he clenched his fists and sparks burst between his fingers. "Maybe not before," he said, "but now." "I'm not the same." The desert itself seemed to shiver at his words. The firestorms above began to calm, the earth quieted. Even the flames around Serafina bowed lower, as if recognizing something new had been born. Seraphine's face, usually so certain, so untouchable, now held uncertainty. Her golden eyes searched him with wonder, and beneath that wonder, a strange fear. "Do you know what this means?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Do you understand what you have done?" Daniel exhaled, his body aching, his mind spinning, but his spirit steady. "I only know one thing," he said, his gaze steady on hers. "Your kiss didn't end me, it changed me." Her lips parted, her fire trembled. She had been worshipped as a goddess, feared as a curse, but never had she been questioned. Never had she been challenged, and now, for the first time, she had given her kiss and found not death but transformation. The kiss of fire had broken history. It had broken prophecy. It had broken the chains of her eternal loneliness, and standing in the ashes of the desert, Serafina knew one truth she could not deny. This human, this Daniel Cross, had done what no one else dared, and because of him, nothing in the universe would ever be the same again. The desert lay silent after the storm of fire. The winds had stilled, the flames had bowed low, and the ground still glowed with cracks of molten light. Daniel Cross stood in the center, his chest rising and falling as if each breath carried the weight of a new world. His body smoked, his skin glowed faintly, and his eyes now shimmered with a fire that was not his own. Serafina, the Princess of Flames, stared at him as though she were seeing something beyond belief. For centuries she had been certain of one truth: her kiss destroyed all who dared to seek it. It was her curse, her crown, her eternal solitude. But now, before her, stood a human who had not only survived, but carried her fire within him. Her golden eyes widened, disbelief flickering like a storm inside them. "This cannot be," she whispered, her voice trembling. "No mortal can endure the flame eternal." Daniel lifted his hand. Sparks flickered across his fingers like restless embers. He clenched his fist, and the sparks burst outward, vanishing into the air. His breath shook, his body weak, but his spirit burned steady. "Maybe no mortal could," he said. "But I'm still here." Serafina drifted closer, her flames circling him with both curiosity and fear. She reached her hand out, fire trailing like silk ribbons. For the first time in her life, she hesitated to touch. She whispered, "Do you feel it?" Daniel met her gaze, his voice low. "Yes, it's inside me. It doesn't hurt anymore." Her lips parted slightly, her fire dimmed. She could not comprehend what she was seeing. For ages she had been taught that fire could never share, never join, never give life, only take it. Yet Daniel stood as living proof that fire could change, fire could choose. "You have broken the laws of my kind," she said, her voice filled with awe and dread. "You have become something that should not exist." Daniel exhaled, smoke curling from his lips. "Or maybe something that was always meant to exist," he answered. Her chest tightened. She felt something stir in her flame, something she had not felt for centuries. It was not anger, not loneliness, but fear, the kind of fear that came when the world shifted beneath your feet. Daniel Cross had not only survived her kiss, he had changed because of it. And that change meant the stories of her people, the warnings, the curses. All of it might be wrong. Seraphine's flames flared wildly, swirling like a storm around her. "Do you realize what you have done?" she asked, her voice sharp with urgency. "My people will not see you as miracle. They will see you as threat. If they discover you carry the flame, they will hunt you. They will burn your world to ashes before letting this truth spread." Daniel's expression hardened. His heart pounded, but his voice was calm. "Then let them come," he said, "because if your kiss can change me, maybe it can change others too." Her eyes blazed, shocked by his words. "You do not understand. The flame eternal is not gift, it is burden. It is throne and prison. If it spreads, it will ignite wars you cannot imagine." But Daniel shook his head. "Or it could ignite peace," he said. "If fire can destroy, then maybe it can also heal. Maybe it was never curse. Maybe it only needed someone willing to stand in it." His words struck her deeper than any weapon. She had lived lifetimes believing she was cursed, that her touch meant death and isolation. But now a human spoke of her fire as if it were hope, and she could not stop the thought from taking root. Seraphine's flames dimmed until they flickered like gentle lanterns. She whispered, "You are dangerous, Daniel Cross, not because of your strength, but because of your belief." Daniel smiled faintly, his body trembling but his spirit steady. "Then let belief be the danger," he said. The silence stretched. The desert still glowed faintly from the firestorm, but no new flames rose. It was as if the planet itself watched the two of them, waiting, for the first time in her long life. Seraphina felt uncertain, not of herself, but of the future. Her kiss had always ended lives, but now it had given one a new beginning. She stared at Daniel, her fire reflecting in his eyes, and in that reflection, she saw something terrifying and beautiful: hope. And hope was far more dangerous than flame. Asterisk. The night sky glowed like molten glass, streaks of fire still burning in the horizon from the kiss that changed everything. Daniel Cross stood in silence, his chest heaving, his skin glowing faintly with lines of ember-like light crawling under the surface. He could feel the flame inside him, not devouring, not destroying, but living, as though fire itself had chosen to stay. Seraphina hovered before him, her golden eyes locked onto him with a mixture of wonder and fear. For centuries she had been flame made flesh, untouchable, eternal, feared. Now she was staring at something new, something her people never imagined. A human carrying her fire without turning to ash. Daniel lifted his hand, watching the faint glow beneath his skin. When he flexed his fingers, sparks slipped between them like restless lightning. He whispered, almost to himself, "It doesn't hurt anymore." Seraphina drifted closer, her flames dimming like the slow glow of coals. "You should be dead," she said, her voice quiet. "No mortal body can hold this, yet you stand." Daniel turned his gaze to her, his eyes now reflecting fire where once there had been only human steel. "Maybe my body couldn't," he admitted, "but it's not just body anymore. It feels like I'm becoming something else." She narrowed her eyes, searching his face. "You are changing," she said, her tone heavy with both awe and warning. "The flame does not join without cost. Every spark reshapes the vessel it enters. Soon you will not be only human." Daniel's chest tightened at her words, but he did not flinch. "If that's the price, I'll pay it," he said. "Because now I understand something. Your fire wasn't meant to end life. It was meant to awaken it." Her flames flickered uncertainly. For centuries, her people had built empires on fear of her touch. They crowned her as symbol, cursed her as prison. But this human, fragile yet unyielding, had turned her curse into gift. His very existence proved everything she had believed was wrong. The desert wind shifted, and the fire within Daniel pulsed stronger. His body shook, his knees buckled, he fell to the ground, his palms slamming into the scorched earth. Heat radiated out from him, cracks of glowing magma splitting the surface. Seraphina rushed forward, her flames curling tightly around him. "Daniel," she called, her voice trembling for the first time. "What is happening to you?" he gasped, his voice strained but determined. "It's not killing me, it's changing me." Sparks burst from his body, rippling into the sky like signals. His back arched, and for a moment his silhouette burned as if wings of fire stretched from him before fading. He collapsed again, panting, his hands glowing brighter than before. Seraphine's eyes widened. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "The flame has chosen you." Daniel coughed, smoke leaving his lips, but his gaze lifted, steady despite his pain. "Then I'll carry it," he said, "not for power, not for war, but for something greater." Her heart, or whatever a being of flame had that could resemble one, stirred at his words. He was not like the others, not like the warriors who sought glory or the kings who sought control. He was something else entirely. He sought meaning. "Do you realize," she said softly, "if you survive this transformation, you will no longer be only human. You will be bridge between your kind and mine." Daniel's lips curved faintly, his face pale but resolute. "Then maybe that's why I'm here," he said. The desert rumbled beneath them, the ground splitting wider as if the planet itself recognized the birth of something new. Flames rose in towering arcs, bending not against Daniel but around him, bowing like loyal servants. For the first time, Seraphina saw her fire obey someone else. Her shock gave way to something far more dangerous: belief. She whispered, "You are not end of story, Daniel Cross. You are beginning of one." Daniel staggered to his feet, his body weak but his eyes burning with determination. The fire inside him no longer felt foreign. It felt like destiny. And as he stood before Seraphina, he realized this transformation was not just about him. It was about humanity, about proving that even fragile beings could rise in flame and not fall. The Princess of Flames looked at him, and for the first time in centuries, she felt hope instead of sorrow. For her kiss had not destroyed, it had created. And the human before her, transformed and unbroken, was living proof that the universe itself was ready to change. The transformation was not his alone, it was theirs, it was humanity's, and it had only just begun. The desert world no longer felt the same. Where once there had been only endless fire and silence, now there was something else change. The sky glowed softer, the winds carried sparks that did not bite, but danced gently in the air. In the center of this shifting land stood Daniel Cross, a human no longer only human, his body carrying the fire of Seraphina, the Princess of Flames. Seraphina hovered before him, her flames dimmed into a glow that felt almost human. Her golden eyes locked on him, still filled with awe and fear, yet also with something more, something fragile and new. For centuries she had been alone, her kiss a curse, her presence a prison. Now with Daniel alive and transformed, she no longer felt eternal solitude pressing against her soul. "You should not exist," she whispered, her voice trembling like a dying ember. "And yet, here you stand." Daniel met her gaze, his chest rising steady, his hands faintly glowing as the flame within him pulsed. "Maybe I shouldn't," he said, "but maybe I was always meant to." Seraphina drifted closer, the fire between them curling softly instead of burning. "Do you know what this means?" she asked. "If my people discover you, they will fear you. They will call you threat. They will seek to end you before your existence spreads hope." Daniel gave a faint smile, his voice calm. "Then let them see me. Let them see that humanity is not just fragile, not just weak. Let them see what we can become." Her flames flickered, her heart stirred. Hope so dangerous, so forbidden, had taken root in her. She whispered, "You speak as though you are not only human anymore." Daniel nodded slowly. "Maybe I'm not. But maybe that's the point. Maybe humans were never meant to stay the same. Maybe we were meant to rise, even through fire." The desert rumbled softly, as though the planet itself agreed. Sparks drifted upward like stars being born. Seraphina stared at him, her fear fading into wonder. She had seen countless warriors perish, countless empires crumble. But never had she seen one man stand and change destiny with nothing more than courage and a kiss. "You are bridge," she said quietly, "between your kind and mine, between fear and hope, between curse and freedom." Daniel exhaled, the fire inside him steady. "Then let me be that bridge," he said, "not to conquer, not to destroy, but to bring something better, something new." Her golden eyes softened. For centuries she had been worshipped as goddess and feared as weapon. But never had she felt seen as simply being. Yet this human, burning with her fire, looked at her not as throne, not as curse, but as equal. In that gaze, Seraphina felt something stir that no flame had ever given her: trust. The night stretched long, and silence hung heavy. But it was not the silence of emptiness. It was the silence of beginnings. The desert itself seemed to bow, the fire bending low as if acknowledging that history had shifted. Daniel turned his eyes toward the stars above, glowing faintly in the firelit sky. Somewhere out there, humanity waited, unaware of what had happened here, unaware that one kiss had changed their fate. "They'll never believe it," he said softly. "Not until they see." Serafina followed his gaze, her flames glowing steady. "Then we will show them," she said, her voice strong. "We will show them that fire does not only destroy. It creates, it binds, it awakens." Daniel looked back at her, his lips curving faintly. "Together," he said. Her flames curled gently around him, not burning but embracing. "Together," she echoed. And so, in the heart of a desert once feared by all, a new story was born. It was not story of destruction, not story of loneliness, but story of unity. A human had kissed the princess of flames, and instead of death, he had found life. Instead of ashes, he had found destiny. The fire no longer whispered of endings. It whispered of beginnings, the first spark of a bond that could reshape galaxies. For in that burning land, under a sky alive with sparks, humanity and flame stood side by side, and the universe, vast and endless, would never be the same again.